Today's lesson is natto, Japan's sticky and nutritious superfood. Hello, everyone. I'm Mike.
I am Roger, and today we're going to talk about natto, which I'm sure you all know about. Natto, of course, is kinds of beans that have this sort of sticky stuff on them. Some people love them, some people hate them. This is one of those foods that you either love it or you don't, okay? It's kind of like durian or okra. Some people love durian, some people hate it.
Stinky tofu.
And okra. I know I'm supposed to have okra, but I don't really like it. Yeah, stinky tofu. These are kinds of foods that are kind of controversial.
Yeah, a little controversial. Definitely things that, as you say, the people love them or hate them. But I guess with natto, it's something you might grow to love once especially you find out how healthy it is. It's also a fairly unknown food, I would say, outside of Japan. I mean, it's not a common thing. It's not like kimchi. I think kimchi has found a lot of popularity around the world, and it is also a superfood. It's very healthy for us. Natto, it's a little bit more of a niche market. It's a little bit more of a smaller group of fans for natto outside Japan, but it is very healthy. It is something a little controversial. Some people will love it, some people will hate it. Some people may never have yet tried it. So we're going to be learning a lot more about natto, not just what it is, where it comes from, but how it can help us live forever, or something like that, as a superfood. Natto, Japan's sticky and nutritious superfood. Natto is a traditional Japanese food known for its health benefits and unique flavor. Before you give it a shot, let's explore where it came from, how it's made, and why it's so good for you.
Okay, so here in the title it says it's Japan's sticky and nutritious superfood. So it is kind of sticky. Of course, it's got that kind of goo on it, and maybe that's why people don't like it, because it has a weird sensation in your mouth. I don't mind it at all myself, but some people wouldn't like that. And it is nutritious. It's got a lot of vitamins and minerals, which are nutrients, and nutritious means it has those things, and it is a superfood.
All right, so let's find out all about it. It says, natto is a traditional Japanese food known for its health benefits and unique flavor. That's a pretty good one-sentence description of the state of natto in our world today. It's a traditional Japanese food, so it's been around for a long time, traditional. It's known for its health benefits. It's known for being healthy and being a superfood and being something that your doctor will be happy to know that you're eating, because it's a lot better for you than French fries. And it has a unique flavor. Yeah, very special, unusual kind of flavor. That's why we're saying unique. If we're not being so kind, we might say weird. Weird would be the word for something you're not so sure about, but it's definitely different. But unique is a good word for something that's different, but you like it. And you're trying to get other people to like it too. I would also say not just the flavor, which is the taste of it, but you alluded to this, Roger, the texture, how it feels in your mouth, right? Because often the flavor isn't that strong with some of these foods, but it just feels weird, right? Especially in Western cultures, we don't have this kind of sticky, gooey food very often. And when we do, it's often sweet. It might be candy of some kind, but to have something kind of salty or savory that you're eating on your rice, and it's got that kind of sticky, gooey feeling, that texture to it, that can also put people off. It says, before you give it a shot, let's explore where it came from, how it's made, and why it's so good for you. So this is all good stuff to do before you try it, before you give it a shot. When you try something, especially for the first time, you'll give it a shot. So your friends are going skydiving on the weekend. Hey, do you want to come? We went before and we had a really good time. And you say, well, I've never done it, but I'll give it a shot. I'll try it out. It also comes with the attitude of, I'll try it and I'll have a positive mindset. I'll be thinking that I might like this. You're not kind of going in and going, oh, I don't really want to do this. You're like, well, I've never done it before, but I will really try. I will try to make it as good as possible and have a good experience, but in the end, maybe you won't. But you'll give it a shot. You're brave. You're willing to give it a try. So let's explore where it came from, how it's made, and why it's so good for you. We're going to get into the whole superfood question, as well as getting some of the background of natto, and we're going to start with where it came from and how apparently that was a happy accident. A happy accident. Like many fermented foods, natto was likely discovered by accident. One popular story involves a samurai named Minamoto no Yoshie. While his soldiers were cooking soybeans, they were attacked and quickly packed the beans into straw bags, and days later, they found that the beans had started to ferment. Curious, Yoshie tasted them and liked them. The truth, though, is that soybeans have long been a Japanese staple, so natto was probably discovered more than once by chance.
大家好，第二部分介绍名词 staple， 意思是主食、主要产品。例如 Seafood is a staple part of Errol's latest diet. 海鲜是 Errol 最近饮食的主食。或者 Rice is a staple of East Asian cooking. 米饭是东亚烹饪的主食。
Okay, so the second part basically takes a stab at how this food came about. It kind of has a theory here. It's kind of a cute story. It's probably not true, but let's talk about it. I think it's a similar story to how tea was discovered. I think Shen-Nong was sitting under a tree somewhere, and the wind blew some leaves into his drink, and he tried it, and he thought, oh, that's so wonderful. And now we have tea. We don't really know if that story's for certain. We don't really know if it's true. Maybe it is. I don't know. But in any case, this was a happy accident here, and like many fermented foods, natto was likely discovered by accident. If something's fermented, like bacteria or yeast is added to it and it causes a chemical change, which could be good, it could be bad, like alcoholic drinks, for example, are fermented. Beer or wine has to sit for a certain amount of time in order for the bacteria to make some changes in the liquid, and then you have this different sort of taste. As a result, this is a fermented food, and it was likely discovered by accident. They didn't really invent it on purpose.
There you go. And it was a happy accident. That's an expression we use because often accidents are not happy, right? Accidents happen and something bad has occurred. But a happy accident is sort of a good turn of luck. Like you're at the airport and you're about to wait for a taxi and, hey, look, it's that guy, my friend who lives really close to me. What a happy accident. We can share the taxi into town, save some money, and have a nice conversation. So it's just an interesting thing that happens kind of by surprise. So here's this story. It involves a samurai named Minamoto no Yoshie. He's a samurai, which is one of those noble warriors of Japan. We often see movies or television shows like that popular Shogun series that I believe was on HBO or Disney or something. And these are about the ancient warriors of Japan. They used the long swords. They would fight each other in grand battles. And of course, we see many of them in exciting movies and video games and stuff like that. So kind of like a knight, the Japanese equivalent or close enough to a European knight. So this is some noble warrior, and he's with his soldiers. What are they doing? It says, while his soldiers were cooking soybeans, they were attacked and quickly packed the beans into straw bags. And days later, they found that the beans had started to ferment. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of a happy accident story, a funny little incident. So these guys, they're cooking beans one day, and then suddenly they're attacked, and they can't finish cooking the meal or even eat the meal later on because they put the beans, these soybeans, into straw bags. So I guess the bags would allow some of the liquid to escape and some air to go in, thus aiding the fermentation process. So they pack the bags and they hop on their horses, and days later, hey, right, we were making those beans. Let's go find out what happened to them. Well, they found that the beans had started to ferment. The beans had started to change because of that natural process that Roger described of bacteria coming in. And I think with alcohol, it sort of changes the sugars into alcohol or something like that. But they'll often get smellier and stinkier and softer, and they'll kind of change in structure and in flavor. So that's what happened. Most people might look at that and go, oh, yuck, or aye, and then throw it away, but I guess they were hungry.
Could be. They were probably fighting another army and they were attacked by them. Let's get out of here. Let's retreat. Don't forget the food. So in haste, they put it in those straw bags, and then they kind of forgot about it, and then they discovered the bags still had those beans in it, and Yoshie thought, well, they probably really stink now, but what the heck, I'll try them. As Mike said here, maybe they were hungry and they couldn't find any sushi restaurants around where they escaped to, so he tried it and he thought, actually, that's pretty tasty. I like it. So he tasted it and he liked it. And the truth, though, is that soybeans have long been a Japanese staple, so natto was probably discovered more than once by chance. So soybeans were quite common in the Japanese diet. A staple is something that people eat pretty much every day, like rice is a staple in the Chinese diet and in the Taiwanese diet, and Japan, I guess they like rice too, so that's a staple there. In North America, I think bread or potatoes is a staple. We pretty much have those with every meal. So yes, soybeans have long been a food that they eat all the time. It's a staple, and it was probably discovered by chance more than once, but this story sounds better. It involved a samurai, not just some peasant on a farm someplace.
There you go. So no matter how natto was discovered, it is definitely something that entered the Japanese diet and has stayed there for a long time. Now, let's get to the whole superfood question and find out all about that in the next part of the article. Beans and bacteria. Natto is made from just 3 ingredients: soybeans, water, and a special bacterium called Bacillus subtilis variety natto. First, dry soybeans are soaked in water and steamed until they're soft. Then they are mixed with the bacteria in a clean space and left to ferment for about 18 to 24 hours at 40 degrees Celsius. Afterward, the beans are cooled and refrigerated for a few days. This is when they get their famous sticky, stringy texture.
第3部分看到名词 bacteria 表示细菌，例如 This type of hand soap gets rid of bacteria. 这种洗手肥皂可以去除细菌，或是 This type of disease is caused by bacteria. 这种疾病是细菌引起的。继续看到名词 ingredient， 它的意思是烹调的原料、成分、要素。例如 This restaurant only uses the most expensive ingredients in its food. 这间餐厅只用最昂贵的原料来制作料理。也可以说 Cherries are the main ingredient in this dessert. 樱桃是这道甜点的主要原料。另外补充这个字的同义词 component, C-O-M-P-O-N-E-N-T, component 指成分、构成要素。造个例句 One of the components of this mixture is oil. 这个混合物的成分之一是油。另外一句 Customer service is a major component of a successful business. 客户服务是成功企业的一大要素。后面看到 soak 这个单字，它是动词，指浸泡、渗透。例如 The fabric needs to soak overnight before it can be properly dyed. 这个布料需要浸泡1整晚才能适当的上色。再看一个例子 After exercising, Greg likes to soak in a warm bath to relax his muscles. 运动后 Greg 喜欢泡热水澡来放松肌肉。另外 soak 也可以当名词。例如 This recipe calls for an overnight soak of the beans before cooking. 这道食谱需要将豆子浸泡1整夜再进行烹煮。再一句 Jimmy gave his muddy shoes a soak before trying to clean them. Jimmy 在清洗满是泥巴的鞋子前，先将它们浸泡了一下。往下介绍动词 refrigerate， 指的是冷藏。举例来说 If you refrigerate that food, it will stay fresh longer. 如果你把那食物冷藏，它可以保鲜久一点。又或者说 After opening, you must refrigerate the sauce to keep it fresh. 开封后，你必须冷藏酱料以保持新鲜。另外补充这个字的名词 refrigerator, R-E-F-R-I-G-E-R-A-T-O-R, refrigerator, 意思是冰箱。造个句子 Kelly had all the ingredients she needed in the refrigerator. Kelly 冰箱里有她需要的所有食材。最后一句 Annie puts a bottle of juice in her refrigerator. Annie 把一瓶果汁放进冰箱。
Okay, so the final part of our lesson for today is entitled Beans and Bacteria. Okay, soybeans, of course, are beans. Bacteria is like germs, and they're not like viruses. Remember, viruses are very, very small. Bacteria are bigger, and I guess they self-reproduce. I guess that's the difference between viruses and bacteria. But natto is made from just 3 ingredients, and they are soybeans, water, and a special bacterium called Bacillus subtilis variety natto. So that's the natto of that bacterium. Bacteria is the plural form of this noun. Bacterium is singular, so this is a kind of bacteria, so we call it a special bacterium, and that's its name. And basically, that's the bacteria that is used to make natto.
All right, so that's a bit of the science there, but what is actually going on and how does it happen? Well, it says first, dry soybeans are soaked in water and steamed until they're soft. I think this is a pretty much standard way of cooking soybeans, especially if you're turning them into tofu or something like that. You soak them in water so that they pick up water, because the dry soybeans, of course, will be very hard and dry. So with many of these dried beans, whether they're chickpeas or soybeans or things like that, you often do soak them in water, often overnight. So get a bowl, put in a couple of cups of soybeans in there, leave it overnight, because when you soak something, you basically leave it in water till it absorbs as much water as it possibly can. If you put a towel into a bucket of water and leave it there for half an hour, that will be a heavy towel when you take it out, because it will have sucked up and absorbed as much water as possible. So something that is left in water or soaked in water, the water will start to change it, right? It will often break it down and make it wet, maybe make it softer and more easily broken or something like that. Bread soaked in water is not bread that you're going to end up making a sandwich out of, but you might use it in soup or something like that. So they soak it in water, put it in water a long time, and then take it out and steam it until it's soft. So the cold water will act on it, and then when you steam it, use hot water vapor, that will really make these formerly dry soybeans now nice and soft, so that you can basically do almost anything with them. And then they are mixed with the bacteria in a clean space and left to ferment for about 18 to 24 hours at 40 degrees Celsius, at quite a high temperature. That, of course, will help the fermentation process. Things ferment faster at higher temperatures. It's got to be in a clean space because you want that good bacteria in there, but you want to prevent other outside bacteria carried in on the air. You want to avoid that. This is the same with cheese making, right? Cheese is made with milk and certain good bacteria that will convert the milk into cream and then into cheese, but you don't want to have other bacteria in there. That can infect the process and lead to bad results. But then once you do it, you have it in that nice warm room, you leave it for about a day, and then what?
And afterward, the beans are cooled and refrigerated for a few days. So I guess you leave them out of the steamer for a while to let them become room temperature or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you'll put them in the refrigerator. To refrigerate just means to make something cool. You're not freezing it. You're not making ice. You're just making it cooler. Of course, your refrigerator has two parts. It's got the regular refrigerator and the freezer, but here we're refrigerating those beans, and you do it for a couple of days. My goodness, that seems like a pretty long process.
It does, but I guess fewer steps in making tofu, because tofu will then be blended and squeezed and dried out. So yeah, this is definitely not a quick process to make this, but wow, the results. It says this is when they get their famous sticky, stringy texture. Well, I guess I should say if you're a fan of natto, the results are great. If you're not, this is when natto becomes really weird. It comes out after being refrigerated and cooled for a few days in its finished natto form, and what you want is it for it to be sticky. When you pick up one natto bean, it'll have these long sort of strands of kind of gooey, sticky stuff, kind of linking it back to the pile on top of your rice, and it's got that stringy texture too. Texture is the word we mentioned earlier. It basically is the feeling of the food, especially in your mouth as you're chewing it, the feeling between your teeth and on your tongue. When we talk about QQ, that's a very popular thing in Taiwan. You want your noodles or your tofu or whatever to be QQ. That's texture as well. Crunchy is a texture. Smooth is a texture. Jelly-like is a texture. These are all different feelings of the food in your mouth. And that texture that a lot of people who don't know natto might be put off by, that's actually the texture that you're trying to make.
Indeed, and you want it to be that way because it's characteristic of natto. If you don't have that sticky kind of texture, then you're not eating the natto that everybody knows and loves. I must admit I hadn't really tried natto until last year when my wife and daughter went to Japan for a trip, and I tried it there. And I guess I was kind of disappointed because I thought that, oh, this is going to be really a strange tasting thing, you know, because everybody says, oh, you either love it or you hate it, you know. But when I ate it, I thought, well, it is sticky, but it's not really stinky or anything. It's
Yeah.
okay. I like it. So, yeah, I kind of was expecting something rather unusual or bizarre, but it was basically just like any other bean dish.
Yeah, I agree. The texture is the weirdest thing about it. The flavor is actually quite mild. You're absolutely right.
Okay, let's take things now to the next level by listening to our Chinese teacher, Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第3部分提到纳豆仅由3种成分制成，大豆、水和一种称为纳豆芽孢杆菌的特殊菌种。文中是用 natto is made from 来表达纳豆由什么什么制成。那这边我们来整理一下由什么制成的用法。首先可以用到 be made of， 它是用来说明构成的材质原料，你从成品外观看得出它的制作原料。例如 lots of toys are made of plastic， 许多玩具是塑胶制的。那第二个我们可以用到be made from， 这是用来说明产品的来源，你从成品外观看不出原料，或是说从制作原料到成品它的本质已经改变了。例如The wine is made from organic grapes， 这种酒是用有机葡萄制成的。第三种我们可以用到 be made with， 这是用来说明所含的原料成分。那这个句型它并没有去强调制作过程，通常就只是在说明食材的原料是什么。好，补充一下 make A out of B 可以表达用 B 来做成 A， 那它的被动句型A be made out of B 常常用来强调 B 被改变转变为 A 了。例如 The scarf is made out of an old dress， 这条围巾是用一件旧洋装做成的。好，那接着课文提到纳豆的制作方法，他提到 First, dry soybeans are soaked in water and steamed until they're soft. 首先，干燥的大豆放在水中浸泡并蒸煮至软烂。那这边要介绍 until 的用法。until 它表示直到为止，它可以当介系词，那后面是接表示时间的名词，也可以当连接词，那后面就是接子句，就像是文中的用法。如果我们是用 not 去搭配 not until 是表达直到什么才开始怎么样，用来只说情况一直到某个时间点后才改变。例如 She didn't go to bed until her parents came home， 直到爸妈回到家她才上床睡觉。另外，如果我们把这个 not until 移到句首的话，那主要子句必须倒装，也就是说呢，我们要把 be 动词或助动词摆在主词的前面，所以这个句型就会是 not until 加上表示时间点的名词或子句，然后后面接倒装的主要子句，也就是 be 动词加主词，或者是助动词加主词加动词。举例来说 He wasn't able to get off work until 9 p.m. 这时候我们把这个 not until 9 p.m. 移到句首，然后经过倒装，就是把 be 动词 was 移到主词 he 的前面，就会写作 Not until 9 p.m. was he able to get off work， 直到晚上9点他才下班。好，那以上是今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天单字吧。
Nutritious. Eating plenty of nutritious foods can help you stay healthy and active. Bacteria. Some bacteria can make people very sick, but not all of them are harmful. Ingredient. Flour, sugar, eggs, and butter are all ingredients that are commonly found in cakes. Soak. After going for a long run, Kim soaked her tired feet in a tub of warm water. Texture. At breakfast, Gordon was complaining that the texture of his toast was too crunchy.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Mike.
See you next time.